know, the fact that Albion, which is a mobile MMO, is beating Lost Ark, which is obviously a PC title, is kind of embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. I like Albion. I think it's a good game, but I compare it to other mobile MMOs. I don't really compare it to the other MMOs outright because, you know, like, what are we talking about? Now, Albion's dog shit. No, I think that the large-scale PvP in Albion's actually pretty fun. The replayability of the game is not quite there for me. It's not quite there for me. Because, you know, you grind out these armor sets, but then, like, you don't really have much else to do if you're not in, like, an endgame PvP guild. There's just not much else to do. And if you are in an endgame PvP guild, though, it's juicer.
Sandbox MMORPG that was released in 2017 and is available on PC, Mac, iOS, and Android, and is free to play and full of pay for power. Not for the faint of heart, Albion is a full loot PvP MMO. Once you've been looted by an enemy, you'll have to go and buy replacement gear, but fortunately the game has made this process incredibly easy by letting you save loadouts so that you can repurchase your loadout with a click of a single button after you die. The game features a pretty massive progression tree where the more you use something, the more you level it up and unlock things down that branch of the tree. Albion Online does not require a mandatory sub, but does offer an optional sub that will greatly reduce your grind towards max level.
Yeah, it's also like a really under-monetized MMO, in my opinion. I say under-monetized, but it's like less monetized than basically other MMO, which is crazy because it's a mobile MMO.
The game has attracted and maintained a sizable audience and seems to have carved out its own space in the MMO sphere. Next up, holding on to the number 14th spot is Lord of the Rings Online.
Holy dude, Lost Ark is losing to Lord of the Rings Online. It came out in 2007, bro.
This MMO was released back in 2007, and then in 2010, the game went from being a subscription-based game to being free to play. Lord of the Rings Online is a classic theme park MMO.
Look at that.
It's got a respectable Lord of the Rings inspired story with some really...
In fairness, this could be skewed a little bit. Because Lord of the Rings is a more common thing to Google, right? And he's doing it based on the Google trends and an interest in the game. So it's possible people like mistype, they like click on Lord of the Rings Online, whatever, which might skew it a little bit.
Solid voice acting. Like many of the free-to-play MMOs, it's not massively popular, but it's alive enough to enjoy it. It's worth noting that in order to have access to all the races and classes, you'll either have to do a hefty grind of cash up currency or fork out a little bit of cash. You can also choose to sub to the game for 15 bucks a month in order to get things like extra inventory space and extra quests. If you're looking for a good story and a classic MMO experience, Lord of the Rings Online could be a good time for you. Next up, holding on to the 13th slot and sitting here as the...
My God, you're losing to a game that came out before the year 2000, dude. Literally before the turn of you're losing to a game that came out before the turn of the century, bro. Like, what are we doing? Holy shit. 1999.
Oldest MMO we'll talk about today, launched all the way back in 1999, is EverQuest. EverQuest still has a small but respectable
dude, MMOs are so down bad, man.
population.
We are so down bad.
And is surprisingly still popular enough to be on the list today. Before WoW, when no one knew what an MMO was, there was EverQuest. This game is full of the classic MMO formula because it invented a lot of...
Chrono Odyssey to be goated, bro.
It's still getting expansions today, which is definitely contributing to the fact that it's still around today. It's worth noting that it might be hard to do group content if you're not someone who is willing to multi-box, as this is one of the most popular ways to play the game today. Dropping one spot to number 12 is EVE Online, released all the way back.
Bro, EVE, dude, they sponsored me to play this. This is Perlibus, by the way. Perlibus owns EVE. They did not make EVE, but they bought it, and they own the IP and stuff, and they manage it. EVE's actually kind of good. I'm not gonna lie. That game is actually good. Not anymore. Did they sell it? Oh, they just sold it. Okay, so they used to sell it. Or they used to own it. Whatever. Regardless, actually a good game. The only thing that kept me, because I actually logged in, I played it with a sponsor, and then I started playing it on my own, but I just could not figure shit out, dude. Like, it wasn't like BDO, where you ask a question, and there's like a guide for it, and then the question's answered. I would like ask a question, and then I would go to the guide. I would watch like a 25-minute guide. Question's still not answered. Watch the next like 10-minute guide. Finally, my question gets answered, and then I get past that, and I immediately have another question. So like, it's a game that's really hard gated by knowledge, but dude, it is really, really cool. Really, really cool. You got the big space battles. The graphics are somehow really incredible. You know, you got your custom ship that you're building and all that stuff. I have nothing but positive things to say about it. I do. If I had more time, I'd make it my main game probably.
In 2003, EVE Online is
an actual job in my opinion. Yeah,
where your goal is to build and upgrade a powerful spaceship.
I didn't have any community to really play with, so I was kind of playing on my own. But it was fun to build the spaceship.
You can join up with others to vie for control of the most profitable sectors of space. It's free to play with the option to pay money to do things like access more spaceships sooner. It also has an optional sub, and this sub is the most expensive subscription on the entire list, sitting at $20 per month. As with
yeah, but it's optional and you really don't need it.
Most optional subs, fans of the game will often tell you that if you intend to fully enjoy the game, the sub's not so optional. PvP in EVE Online is high stakes, as when your ship is destroyed, it does not respawn. Instead, you'll have to build it again. So be prepared to spend days, weeks, or months refarming materials to get your ship back. EVE was never the biggest MMO, but it and its fans and its developers have kept it on this list for over 2 decades, likely because there's nothing else like it. Next up, we have a new MMO on the list, Ashes of Creation.
Let's go! It's on the list! You guys lost to Ashes! You lost to Ashes of Creation! That's crazy! Holy shit! You guys are so dog! Oh my god! This must have been just before the crash. There's just no way. This had to have been just before the crash. Holy shit!
Sitting at number 12?
Cinema, please glaze it. Please glaze it. This had to be just before it crashed.
As with all MMO launches, it's falling fast. The game has launched to mixed reviews, and the upside is that it aims to be an open-world PvP MMO that is free of pay-to-win. The downside?
True. In this case, you pay to just lose money.
Is that it's still very much an unfinished game, with only a fraction of the promised content.
And it will remain that way.
The decision to release the game felt like it came out of nowhere, as they skipped from alpha.
Well, now we know. It came out of nowhere, Steven. Steven was like, you know what? One more cash grab for the boys. You know, for the love of the game.
The Steam launch, as interest in the alpha waned. The first impressions of the game are similar to what we saw in alpha. The developers really want players to group, and as a result, they have made solo play an incredible.
What's sad is that I actually do think that this MMO could have been really good. I think that a lot of people were hoping that this MMO would be good. But when it came out, when the first alpha came out, I could already tell that it was just not going to, it was just not, there's some fraud going on. I was like, there's no way you work on a game for 6 or 7 years. I know, I get it. And it looks like this. It looked worse than I just don't understand. It just doesn't, it's not a thing. It's not a thing, right? And then like, you fast forward to the alpha 2 and it looks exactly the same. Almost worse. I don't know how Throne and Liberty is Unreal Engine 4. This is Unreal Engine 5, guys. That's how shitty the developers were for Ashes of Creation. The systems of the game, the PvP and the dungeons and stuff had a lot of potential. Everything else, complete dog shit. Like the visuals, like the grind in the game, like how much depth there was to the system. It just wasn't there. Or how much depth there was to like the world building and the ecosystem stuff. It wasn't there. All of the developers, in my opinion, were in on the fraud. Whether they knew about it directly or not, I guarantee there's no way they showed up to work and they were like, yeah, everything looks fine here. This is good. No, but they were being paid money and they were like, just don't say anything because we're getting paid for doing literally nothing. That's what they get. So I have zero sympathy for the devs. Zero sympathy. Because you profited off this scam. Like 100%.
Slog. In order for an MMO that almost demands...
It's just sad because I think that people's faith in Kickstarters and shit in general, this is like the ultimate faith shaker. I don't think that anyone that invested in Ashes will ever invest in another Kickstarter again.
Group play to survive,
at least the majority
needs to have an incredibly large population, which isn't a luxury that a niche PvP MMO usually has in 2026, which means Ashes of Creation's design and reality might be at odds with each other on this front. Here's hoping they figure it out because, man, do we need more Western MMOs that are free of pay to win.
They figured it out. The solution was to shut the server down.
Make sure to sub to the channel to see where this MMO lands when we update this list in 6 months.
That did not end well. That did not age very well. I hope to see where it landed 3 months from now when you make the next video.
Falling 2 spots to number 11 is Star Wars The Old Republic. BioWare handed this game off to a new developer to keep it up and running.
I played the shit out of this game when it came out,
which has definitely caused delays to new content and has also seemingly resulted in smaller content additions overall. This is another MMO that is now free to play with an optional sub. That optional sub will unlock a lot of things, but most importantly, it'll give you access to all of the zones in the game forever, even if you only sub for 1 month and then cancel. Star Wars: The Old Republic is known for its amazing class stories that immerse you in the world of Star Wars, which are fully voice acted and are incredibly well fleshed out and written. Perhaps the most unique part of the stories is that your choices actually have an impact on the ending of your story, with up to
There's not much redeeming qualities about this game. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to enjoy it. If you're not somebody that's like super crazy about Star Wars, this is going to seem like a super underwhelming MMO. I love Star Wars. Obviously, my name's Blue Squadron, like, but like I loved it, so I played a bunch of it. But
3 different endings possible for each class. It's not a bad game to pick up and play with a friend, as it does feature level scaling. The downside of this is that it's made the questing experience very, very easy, perhaps too easy. So you'll definitely be jumping in for the story rather than the challenge. Now it's time to dive into the top 10.
Boys, I think we're in the top 10.
This video, be sure to like
Boys, I
and
think we're in the top 10.
To be kept up to date on all the latest and greatest MMO news. Sitting at number 10 is Final Fantasy 11.
Let's go. We're beating the 11.
Released all the way back in 2002, it was the first MMO in the Final Fantasy universe, and this game has definitely stood the test of time. It was one of the first, if not the first, cross-platform game that let PlayStation 2 and PC...
Look at that combat, man. The bar is so impossibly low for MMO players.
Play together. A while back, the developers announced they were putting Final Fantasy 11 into maintenance mode and letting the developers move on to other things. But then more recently, the developers moved in the other direction and announced a flurry of updates and changes. I'm guessing that this was a response to the resurgence of players, some drawn into the free login event last year, and others just looking for a change of pace from Final Fantasy 14 while they wait for the next update.
The thing that makes me want to play Final Fantasy 14 the most, I know this is 11, but 14 the most, is because that's where all the women play. Like all the women in the MMO genre, I feel like, are playing Final Fantasy 14 because they're all like super Final Fantasy nerds, and that's where they're all hanging out. You know what I mean? It's all femboys. No. You're thinking of BDO, where every woman has a penis.
Whatever the reason, it's a welcome change for the game. The MMO has aged more gracefully than most. It's still a sub-to-play MMO with 0 pay-to-win 24 years after release. It doesn't sell WoW token equivalents, mounts, or cosmetics in its cash shop. Everything is earned exclusively by playing the game. Between that and its incredibly unique design, it's no surprise that it still has a loyal following all these years later. Next up, moving up 1 spot to the 9th spot.
Let's go! Bro, we're number 9. We're number 9. We're huge.
Black Desert Online.
And to be clear, I actually think that we rose significantly from this. I do. I think that we rose significantly because this is just before Crimson Desert release. This was just before Crimson Desert release, and we obviously had a big surge of players. So, like, honestly, I'd say we're probably number 6, maybe number 7 now.
Known for its beautiful graphics and its flashy combat. It's an open world game with very little in the way of instanced content. You don't play BDO for the dungeons and for the raids. BDO is a Korean MMO grind.
This guy sucks at grinding. Oh my god, it's shaky. Oh my god, it's shy. I swear to god, I did not realize he's hitting. Why are you not back attacking the wizard, dumbass? What are we doing? You have one jug. Go around the back and back attack it, man. What are you doing? Like,
mixed with a dash of
holy shit, he just sucks at everything.
PvP. It's important to note that it's an always-on PvP game. Once you hit 50, the PvP is...
Dude, it's all shaky. It's all shaky.
On. For the most part, anyone can kill you at almost any time. This doesn't mean that they will, but...
Fake uni?
This is definitely one of the unique qualities of the game that makes it popular among PvPers. Unfortunately, BDO has recently...
Yeah, I think that he needs to update his take on this. Like, you said that people could kill you at any time. Bro, that's really just not... Like, bro, just nobody does open world PvP unless you're decked on another guild, which is, like, rare.
Started to slide back to its more pay-to-win way.
He's back? No, he's not. Dude, Fake Uni is not playing BDO. Stop it. No, he's not back. It's 20 days ago, bro. Get over it. He played BDO for 1 day 20 days ago. What are you doing? Stop trolling me. No, Shaky? Oh. Well, nobody cares about Shaky. That guy's worthless.
ways after it had briefly improved things for a year or so. Between the increasing pay-to-win and the 3 optional subs that total more than $40, this pay-to-win MMO has the type of monetization that it seems only PvPers are willing to tolerate. Still, it's one of the best PvP MMOs out there if you're looking for one, and so it's been able to hold on to enough players to keep it in the top 10. Next up, falling 2 spots to number 8 is Maple.
I hate that we are losing and consistently losing to this child's game. This dog shit, waste of space, worthless game. Dude, the people that play this are... Look at this
story. Maple Story,
like literally, you're talking about, like, you're still playing a game whose company openly scammed you out of your own money. They literally decreased the rates on Gamba boxes. The more money you spent, they would secretly lower the percent chance of you getting the item, so you would have to spend even more money to get the item. They got outed for this, and somehow you are still playing this Scamba game, bro. There's no excuse, man.
2003 in the East and 2005 in the West. It was immensely successful and still manages to stay relevant nearly 2 decades later. So far, the game's reached over 260 million registered users worldwide. It's got over 40 different classes free to try and offers an incredibly unique and
is it just me, or is this just a kid's game, bro? It looks like a game for kids.
Accessible experience. This side-scrolling MMO has done a good job of staying relevant.
I feel like the kids would play this on like a iPad.
Over the years, even outliving its intended successor, Maple Story 2, which died almost immediately.
There's a Maple Story 2?
Upon launching. Which brings us to another old MMO, holding on to the number 7 spot is
Swaggy plays this dog shit game, bro. We're literally just getting gapped by all the children's games. We're literally getting gapped by children's games.
Wizard 101. This MMO was a gateway into the MMO scene for many children around 2008 when it launched. It's still going strong today and still getting new updates regularly. The game lists itself as free to play, but veterans of the game will tell you that it's more honest to call this free to try, as you'll need to sub in order to access all of the game's best and most relevant content. It's definitely a unique entry, featuring a card collecting style of combat. It also includes your more usual MMO staples like housing and fishing. And despite its humble beginnings, it's still here holding down the number 7 spot over...
I hate it, bro. The only redeeming thing about this is that a lot of the players playing this have got to be kids, right? Right? And those kids will probably go on to play real video games when they're older that are MMOs.
16 years after its initial release. Next up, falling 2 places to number 6 on this list is Elder Scrolls Online.
Dude, we're losing to ESO? What the...
This MMO is
going... Do people even care about combat? Is it like...
A bit of an awkward transition in monetization models right now, but we should see some clarification on that front soon. Elder Scrolls Online is one of the few MMOs still getting massive expansions every year. Some players love
ESO has a story? Yeah, that's what I like. 48,000 hours into my MMO is making sure that it has a good story. I'm going to be honest with you. A good story, in my opinion, is all cosmetic to the game actually being good. Story keeps you engaged for 50, 60 hours, typically tops. Tops. Maybe Final Fantasy might be an exception, in which case it's going to be 190 hours. Even still, when you talk about playing MMOs, you're talking about 4-digit hours. Thousands of hours. Okay? Stories don't keep you engaged for thousands of hours.
Almost infinite number of Elder Scrolls quests tucked within, while detractors complain about the homogenization of classes and combat, stating that everything plays the same. The recent addition of multi-classing has definitely exacerbated this already problematic issue greatly.
At least it's a real game.
But on top of ESO's massive amount of single-player content, it's also got 12-player raids and 4-player dungeons, both of which are fantastic. ESO definitely leans towards the casual MMO player and stands out as one of the more story-driven MMO experiences out there. Since its release in 2014, ESO has cultivated a large and loyal fan base, and it continues to hold its own against the heavy hitters at the top of the list. Next up, moving up more slot.
Ask and you shall receive. W. Honestly, Guild Wars 2 deserves it.
Than any other MMO on this list is Guild Wars 2, sliding its way
underrated,
up to number 5.
Underrated.
Guild Wars 2 had an explosive launch
think that Guild
back
Wars
in 2012.
3, Guild Wars 3 is probably going to be the best MMO launch of the last 10 years. God willing.
It has since been one of the most popular MMOs on the market, and recently it's seen a huge resurgence of players. As MMOs go, Guild Wars 2 does an excellent job of encouraging zone exploration and completion.
This is the best MMO I've played outside of Black Desert in a few years, probably.
And tried hard to break the mold of having players run from one yellow exclamation point to the next. Guild Wars 2 features a very generous free trial. The first 80 levels are free, and the game does not feature a sub, not even one of those quote-unquote optional subs. So when it says you can play it for free, it means it. After the first 80 levels, there's a lot of...
That's bullshit. You are not play this game for free. You have to spend money on the expansions, but there's no monthly sub, I don't think. Well, you don't have to buy the monthly sub, but you have to buy the expansions.
Great content to be had in the expansions.
Yeah, the large scale PvP looks really good in this. The raids look really good in this, but the combat is super fluid in this game. And Guild Wars 2 has kind of a unique way to bring players together in the open world, doing like all the events and stuff. And the events are surprisingly super active and people actually do them. At least that's what I experienced with it, which I thought was pretty cool and kind of unique for MMOs, because usually MMOs have you playing solo, you know?
Those will need to be purchased, and these expansions are definitely where the game's best content is.
My biggest problem with this game and the biggest turnoff is the graphics are so atrocious. They have not aged very well. That's why I said Guild Wars 3, I think, might be it, boys.
As you've heard me say before, Guild Wars 2's mounts are better and more fun than any other mounts in any other MMO. Yeah, its lack of rigid trinity of tank, healer, and DPS have made it a unique entry in the genre as well. One of the most memorable parts about Guild Wars 2 is its world events, where upwards of 100 players will group up to take down world bosses that can be as big as the size of a skyscraper. And it's really...
Yeah, it does scale really well. Like 100%. What do people do outside of PvP? There's like raids and world bosses and all kinds of shit you can do.
Really cool to see that many people in the community get together to take these things down. How is Guild Wars 2 trending? Well,
I think that their world bosses are way better than BDO's. BDO, when was the last time you guys all actually went to Zarka? Like, or Kudum, right? What was, like, be honest. Be honest with yourself for a second, right?
After sliding for a few years after its End of Dragons expansion, it's recently started to climb rapidly, showing massive player growth over the last 6 months. Next up, climbing up one spot to number 4 is World of Warcraft Classic.
I really did enjoy World of Warcraft Classic hardcore when I played it. That was a lot of fun. It also was an ass-clenching experience, though. So
March of 2017, Blizzard finally caved and announced they would be making World of Warcraft Classic. World of Warcraft Classic was a return to WoW before its controversial additions like Raid Finder, excessive cash shop items, and the WoW token. WoW Classic is the classic MMO experience, slower combat, and the strict adherence to the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS. WoW Classic's developers have gone quiet as they work on the next major iteration of the WoW Classic experience. I've been saying for a long time, I hope WoW Classic will eventually do what old school RuneScape did and carve its entirely own path, completely forking from retail WoW.
Yeah, I don't actually know what the plan is for Classic WoW. Are they just like low-key just gonna re-release the same game all over again, like 20 years apart? Is that it? Is that just the plan? Like every single expansion is exactly the same? Like, what are we talking about? Because eventually people are gonna stop playing it, right? That's the problem. That's why people stop playing retail. The reason people like Classic is because they ruined retail WoW. And there was enough of the player base that was like Blizzard that they decided to release Classic WoW. Well, the problem is that they keep releasing expansions in order. They're going to ruin the game again, right? And eventually it's going to go downhill, like theoretically, right? Which means that they either need to literally start over again and do WoW Classic again, or they need to completely diverge from the path like he's saying here. I don't understand what the plan is here, because Cataclysm was an extremely divisive expansion for the World of Warcraft community, and they still brought Cataclysm through.
Open this new version.
Now, I don't think Warlords of Draenor has come out yet, and my understanding is that WoD was like the biggest, like bro, people did not like Warlords of Draenor, bro.
Version of WoW, they do everything they can to avoid it becoming just another dungeon queue simulator. We already have retail WoW for the times where all we want to do is log in and jump into the dungeon and raid finder queues. WoW Classic is sitting at number 4, further proof that there is a strong appetite for the classic MMO experience, untainted by WoW tokens, microtransactions, and loot crates. Next,
but they have all of those things. Well, I guess not in Classic.
Up holding on to the number 3 spot is Final Fantasy XIV. This MMO is no stranger to the top 3. Final Fantasy XIV continues to earn its position with its constant and massive content drops from one.
I find this shit insane because I don't really see the player numbers for Final Fantasy being crazy. But I think that this number is pretty skewed for Final Fantasy because Final Fantasy is a huge like title, right? And so I think that because he's doing it based on Google Trends, I do think that it's skewed because people will absolutely Google Final Fantasy 14, but they don't mean or just Final Fantasy in general, right? And they don't really necessarily mean Final Fantasy Online, right? ERPers, yeah, but like, dude, I think that the Final Fantasy community is massive, absolutely huge. Granted, you can see it when the game comes out with an expansion, like once every 2 years, bro. Everybody comes back to play it. It's absolutely insane. The amount of like people that come back to play that game are wild. But on downtime, like right now, there's like nobody playing. Like it doesn't feel like there's anybody playing the game. You know what I mean? The biggest thing that holds me back from playing this game is that every single time I go to I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about playing WoW or Final Fantasy 14. People will be like, oh, that's amazing, dude. All you have to do is get past the first 60 hours, and I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, you just need to go through. The story is amazing. After like the 60-hour mark, you're gonna have a great time, but it's gonna be so amazing. I'm like, I gotta play 60 hours? You're trolling? And then another guy goes, no, it's more like 80. Yeah, it's more like 80 hours, right? And you're like, what the? So I got to play 80 hours before the storyline gets good and I'm able to actually play the game? You know what I mean? It's cancer. It's a BDO main story. That's brutal, dude. I don't want to go through that. But then, like, if I skip the main story, because you can skip the main story. If I skip the main story, I don't know what the is going on, and I feel like I've missed, like, 80% of the reason that people play Final Fantasy. That's literally like people like the skipping the story is like trying not to grind in BDO. Like why the fuck are we even here?
An expansion and patch to the next. Final Fantasy XIV is a fantasy MMORPG that places a massive focus on the story, and its newest expansion, Dawntrail, started a brand new story arc after they concluded the previous 10-year arc in the Endwalker expansion. It features 22 different classes and the trinity of tank, healer, and DP.
Never mind, I'm so back in. Honestly, sometimes you do be seeing the cat girls go kind of hard, you know what I mean? And I wasn't even really turned on to it until I didn't even know. I'll be honest with you, I've never played a Final Fantasy game, not once. The only reason I even know who this character is because I play Magic the Gathering, and Y'shtola is an extremely popular commander and really good. Very attractive woman, though.
Yes, and a new Beastmaster class is on the way in 7.5. Final Fantasy XIV has a best-in-class free trial, now allowing you to play the first 70 levels and the first 2 expansions for completely free. After that, you'll have to buy the game and pay for a mandatory sub. Thanks to this mandatory sub, however, the game is free of pay-to-win, it's free of loot boxes, and it has hundreds, if not thousands, of cosmetics and mounts.
The graphics really turn me on or turn me off to Final Fantasy. Bro, the graphics are not super good. I'm going to be honest. The graphics are kind of cooked.
That you can earn in-game by playing the game. Final Fantasy XIV players love the game, but they are asking the developers to mix up their formula.
You mod all the graphics? I don't like modding my game. I don't want to get banned.
A little bit in future expansions. Next up, falling one spot to an impressive number.
I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate the people that play this game. I hate this game. Like, dude, every single time somebody tells me that they play old school RuneScape, I mauled. I mauled so hard. Like, you literally have a 5090 graphics card in your computer and you're booting up old school RuneScape. You're like, I love grinding my gathering. Play BDO! Isn't BDO just the objectively better version of this? We have all the same systems and then some. Our characters are way hotter and the graphics are just better. I don't understand.
2 is old school RuneScape. The only MMO on this list that has seen its population steadily increase over the last 10 years is old school RuneScape. This MMO is
as everybody realizes how much shit everything else is.
Unique because players literally get to vote yes or no on anything that the developers want.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing is that the dev team is really just like the community making decisions. A lot of MMOs, I think, are massively held back because the developers of the game are complete, stuck up, arrogant, that refuse to change anything that isn't in like their worldview of what they feel the perfect game looks like. There's so many MMOs that are just completely ruined because the devs like refuse to make changes to the game that are necessary, that the player base sees necessary, and the player base really wants
to add to the
game. Look how long it took them to add Classic WoW. Holy shit.
Old School RuneScape launched as a result of the community not loving some of the changes that were made to the game. Retail RuneScape added WoW-like abilities and a massively pay-to-win cash shop, and so the community begged the developers for the creation of Old School RuneScape. Jagex finally agreed and created servers that were based on the 2007 version of the game.
Well, I think you could say the same thing for Lost Ark. You could say the same thing for the Naraka devs. Are honestly, they listen to feedback a little bit better for sure. Werewolves Meat devs are not a good example. Most Korean development teams are stuck in the mud on stuff, man. They just don't. They don't want to listen to anything that players have to say. Most times, most of the Korean devs are rough out there.
RuneScape is unique because it does not have the player follow a linear storyline, but instead has the player choose their own path through the game. Players can choose to kill monsters.
PoE 1 is the best game because the devs listen to the community. GGG is kind of goated for that, not gonna lie. Yep.
Go off questing or level up one of their many different skills. RuneScape is a very sandboxy MMO that allows for a lot of AFK skilling. And
dude, I was in high school, people were playing this in the computer lab. Like, dude, Facebook, we were all getting, like Facebook was brand new when I was in high school, bro. Like, we're like, dude, this is such an ancient game.
Thanks to its slow pace and incredibly low computer requirements, it's very accessible. It's got some pretty involved quests that would be near impossible to figure out without the help of add-ons and guides, but it is as old school as it gets, with a very clunky combat system and user interface, which means it's going to take a lot of patience and getting used to if you're going to be trying this game for the first time in 2025. Its fans love it because
chat, the only reason I would be playing this is because you guys met a sub goal during a subathon. So just in advance, if I end up playing this game this year, you. It's your fault.
It's nothing like the MMOs that are released today, and honestly, that's understandable. And last but certainly not least, reclaiming the #1 spot is World of Warcraft. The World of Warcraft population is ramping up as we approach the release of its next expansion, and when that drops, it's likely to see another measurable jump in players yet again. The Midnight expansion will be bringing with it a massive revamp of some of the older zones, as well as a brand new, heavily monetized housing system, and a new Demon Hunter spec. World of Warcraft is a massive, seamless MMO that still handles scale better than any other MMO I've played. You can see locations multiple zones away, get on your mount, and fly there. You feel tiny when you walk up to huge structures, and these are things
I feel that way in Guild Wars 2 as well, honestly.
Things that a lot of other MMOs created well after World of Warcraft are still unable to deliver on today, thanks to them being broken down into smaller zones with rampant load screens in between. Depending on who you ask,
I heard really good things about the new WoW expansion overall.
WoW has a love it or hate.
I find it really hard to get engaged with WoW because the community is like insanely toxic. Like, especially the streaming community for WoW is like the most cancer. Everybody's viewbotting. Everybody's looking out for themselves. Everybody's just a piece of like cloud chasing piece of shit. That's basically like, bro, like the majority of them. So when OnlyFans comes out this year, I really want to do it. But I went around and I'm trying to ask like a few of my streamer friends to be like, hey, will you come play hardcore WoW with me? And we'll be in OnlyFans, but we're kind of just gonna do our thing. We'll abide by the rules of the guild, but we're just gonna be there for each other, kind of deals. And like I've gotten a few people on board with me.
Art style. Some call it timeless, others call it cartoony. Regardless, this is one of the most polished MMOs on the list today, receiving some of the most massive expansions of any MMO on the list. World of Warcraft features the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, and has 13 unique classes, each with multiple different specs. If you're not into multiplayer content, there's a ton of single-player content.
I don't think I can properly prepare you for the level of brain damage that I'm about to inflict upon you today. Apparently, James Bond doesn't belong in video games, let alone even his own. Why, might you ask? Well, that's because a writer thought it was worth writing about, believing that James Bond is this unrealistic level of man that is nothing that anybody should be trying to aspire to, doesn't really fit in modern society, and therefore should be replaced with something a little bit more relatable, like you and I, or maybe a Reddit mod. If there is one trend in modern media and entertainment that I just cannot stand, it is this constant need for critics, or for creators in some cases, to either degrade, replace, or dismantle basically every single aspirational character or hero that we've ever had in entertainment. And this is something that we constantly see. And it ends up being that we end up getting a collection of flaws more than we actually do characters anymore. This is all in an attempt to try to just lower the bar of social expectations for everybody across the board, get rid of any exaggerated traits, try to make everything average, try to make everything as generic as possible, because that's how a lot of these people end up viewing the world. That's the only way for some of these people to be able to connect with a lot of this media. And I think that's terrible. I think that it's had a massive effect on society. I think not having these kind of people to look up to, these characters that we've created to look up to, has done a lot of damage. And on top of that, it's also constantly sending this message of it's not just okay for you to be who you are. It's not just okay for people to accept who you are. No, it's that the world needs to reflect who you are. And that's narcissism, enabled at every turn, in media, in social media, in entertainment, and it's just not good. So today, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about how James Bond apparently doesn't belong in his own game, how we've seen this across various forms of media already in tons of different franchises, what kind of effect this has had on people, and why, for just please, video game developers, don't listen to the media. Like that even needs to be said. Just a quick shout out to Starforge Systems. Thank them for sponsoring today's video. If you guys are in the market for a new PC, some of the best, if not the best builds on the market, go ahead and check out the link down below. I'll pin it in the comment as well. I have been in love with my Starforge PC. I cannot thank these guys enough for sending me one. I can promise you guys right now, if you want a good PC, these are the guys to go to. As a kid, I had heroes. I think that most of us did. I thought that Goku was the coolest guy in the world. He was always focused on getting stronger, always putting everybody else before himself, always losing, getting back up, and then finding some way to come back even stronger than before. And there was something in that for me, that ability to persevere, to be on the edge of failure, on the edge of despair, and then still find some way to pull yourself back up and push your way through. Characters that strong end up inspiring an entire generation of kids. I was one of them, and while I eventually gave up on trying to learn the instant transmission, those lessons about perseverance absolutely affected me as I got older. James Bond is another one of those characters. I've always been a fan of the Pierce Brosnan era, GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, Die Another Day. To me, Bond was just insanely cool. A guy that just seemed to always have a plan, never folded under pressure, always carried himself like a professional. He could talk to anyone, adapt to anything, somehow have an answer for every situation, and yeah, he got the girl every single time. I mean, what guy wouldn't want to be James Bond? Well, apparently, PC Gamer doesn't. Recently, previews started rolling out for IO Interactive's upcoming James Bond game, 007 First Light, and the reception for it has been incredibly positive, which honestly I'm finding a little bit surprising given how skeptical people were right when the game was first announced. But so far, I've watched Luke Stevens and Jakey's previews, and both of these guys came away with glowing praise. A lot of creators did. The common thread seems to be that this game is landing in this really promising space between Hitman and Uncharted, an origin story for a new 007 built around freedom, cinematic action, and a Bond who actually seems to be likable. And as it seems to be the current trend lately, this stuff is getting way too predictable at this point. But while creators walked away impressed, some of the media took what they saw and somehow came to the dumbest conclusion possible. James Bond apparently doesn't belong in video games. In an article from PC Gamer written by Joshua Wallens titled, "Hear Me Out, What If James Bond Shouldn't Be in Video Games?" he writes, "I played a good few hours of 007 First Light last week, and I encourage you to click the link and read all about what I thought of them. But my time with Jim Bond sparked other thoughts that probably don't belong in a preview. Thoughts like, what if James Bond just shouldn't be a video game protagonist? Part of this as well, he's annoying. That might scan differently to non-Brits or indeed anyone who doesn't share my particular brand of class psychosis, but James Bond is an insufferable public school dickhead. He's a rowing club Tory boy through and through, and he comports himself like a man who has a right to the earth and everybody on it." Which is quite fun for a 90 to 120-minute movie where he's surrounded by numerous other people who can roll their eyes at him whenever he opens his mouth. In a video game for 10, 20, 30, 40 hours, less so, especially less so in something like First Light, where a lot of his cocky one-liners and general swagger are delivered to empty rooms and enemy corpses, where no one, save the player, can tell him to give it a damn rest. But also part of his charismatic arrogance is that he's suave and unflappable. Well, great, good for him. I'm not suave and I flap at the slightest inconvenience. I simply don't fit into him. I should probably reword that. Whenever I, as Bond, fumble a counter, miss a shot, or try to duck into cover only to fling myself headfirst into a desk lamp, I break the entire spell of the character. I think that this is such a perfect example of the exact kind of criticism that just is so unbearable in modern media. What is this? I can't personally relate to this character, therefore this character is the problem. Dude, this is so openly narcissistic. The entire point of a character like James Bond is that he is not you. He is not supposed to represent your daily emotional state. He is not supposed to be stumbling around awkwardly, second-guessing himself and apologizing for his own existence. He is James Bond. The whole fantasy is that this dude is suave, composed, arrogant, dangerous, charming, and absurdly capable in ways that most people never will be. That's why people like him. People have understood this. Everybody has understood this for decades now. Nobody watched 007 defuse a bomb, jump off a dam, steal a jet ski, walk into a casino, order a martini, and then immediately thought, yeah, but how does this reflect my personal relationship with class anxiety? Dude, get the fuck out of here. It's always these people that are saying, let me cook, that have no business being in the kitchen. I tell you what. I think this is where so much modern criticism has just completely lost the plot at this point. It doesn't even really represent anybody, and it definitely does a lot of harm to a lot of these games. It's taking these characters that are meant to be exaggerated or iconic, and it's just dragging these guys off into this little room where they have to have every single trait pathologized. Confidence is arrogance, charm is entitlement, masculinity. Of course, you know that one's going to end up being a problem. Everything has to be reduced or explained away or made smaller in some way because you can't be that character when you're not supposed to be that character. We have seen this happen with basically every single kind of aspirational character. People do it with Goku all the time. Instead of looking at him as this absurd, larger-than-life symbol of perseverance, self-improvement, sacrifice, and refusing to stay down, they go, you know, actually, Goku's a bad father. Okay, sure, fine. If you want to flatten an entire character into a family court case, you can go ahead and do that, but that's just such a boring way to engage with something that was never meant to be inspected like that. Goku is inspirational not because he has the perfect domestic life, it's because, well, he just keeps going. No matter how strong the enemy is, no matter how badly he loses, no matter how impossible the fight was, he gets back up and he pushes his limit way past what everybody thought he could. That's the whole reason people connect with it. That's why people get excited about these characters. Bond is similar in that. Bond isn't cool because he's this morally perfect human being that none of us are, by the way. He is cool because he represents composure under pressure, style, nerve, competence, a fantasy of being able to walk into a room where everybody wants you dead, but you are still the one that's acting like you're in control. That